Hey everybody, Dave Hagan here. What would be your perfect day? That's today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to the financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's version of the Financial Wellness Podcast, TFWP, as we like to call it, coming to you, as always, from beautiful downtown Van Nuys. With me, as always, Mr. Brian Reed. Brian, welcome.
Howdy, David.
Good to see you.
Good to be here.
I got to tell you, everybody, Brian drives in and to do the podcast, and he just walked in. We're getting ready, and he just got through laying down on the cement here with a tennis ball. He pulled a muscle in his back, and he's trying to massage it out by laying on a tennis ball. Welcome to
roll
our
it
pain.
out.
Huh?
Roll it out.
Just roll it out, get it happen. And those of you that don't have those kind of issues, appreciate that you don't have those kind of issues. But watching Brian wiggle around on the floor on a tennis ball is a sight I would like to forget soon.
I hate you so much, dude.
Oh,
I
man.
hate you.
Hey, I got my own things. I got shoulder issues.
There you go.
Falling off a ladder. So what can I say? So I want to talk about today, what's your perfect day? And I recently got a letter from a good friend of mine, Mark Given. And Mark is an author and a speaker, and he's the founder of the Trust-Based Philosophy. And he's hired by companies to come in and talk to their staff and talk to their people and their stakeholders about selling and leadership and business skills, but all through the lens of his trust-based philosophy. And I'll give him a plug here. His books are available for sale on markgiven.com. I bought a couple of them. They're easy, short reads, and I recommend him. So over the years, he and I have always kept in touch. We met years ago at a seminar, and we'll exchange emails from time to time, maybe talk very quickly on the phone from time to time. We just keep in touch. And he's a great guy. He talks about topics that can get pretty complicated, but he comes at them from an easy, practical, common sense perspective. And as most of you know, I really like that approach. So I'm on his mailing list, and recently he sent me a note about what a successful day might look like to him. Interesting. So the email goes, "Hey, David, I've thought a lot about what's in a perfectly successful day. Here's 10 things I think mine includes. 1, a day-long focus on gratitude." I like that. We've talked about that, Brian. Yeah. 2, laughing really hard at least one time. You know, the kind where you blow the liquid you're drinking out of your nose and it's embarrassing. I like this guy. This is my kind of guy.
I've done that, though. That hurts.
Right? It hurts. It kind of scars the lining in your nose. But, you know, we don't do enough of that. We don't do enough of that. 3, lifting someone up. Yeah, okay. That's a good day if you can do that. 4, making progress on a worthy goal. All right. Being patient, yet persistent. At first, I thought this said being a patient, and I thought, well, Brian, looks like you were a patient with your back. But it says being patient, yet persistent. Okay. 6, learning something new. This is starting to sum up to a nice day. 7, appreciating something beautiful. 8, nurturing a relationship. 9, seeing something or experience something that moves me to tears just a little, but I don't cry. Just saying. Number 10, offering a helpful hand to someone who really needs it. It's difficult to experience each of these every day, but when I do, it's perfect. How about you? And I thought, well, what an interesting email. This comes to my business computer, and I'm running around at the office with my hair on fire, dealing with problems and issues and this and that. And I get this really kind of breath of fresh air coming to my computer at the office. I think this is a really, really interesting exercise, but I also thought his choices are a little more general in nature, and maybe that's why I like them. But it also caused me to think, what would be my perfect business day? What's in a perfect business day? I mean, we're talking about financial wellness. What would be in a perfect business day? Well, for me, it would be 1, getting up moderately early and feeling refreshed. 2, getting to work and planning my day that's in line with my overall goals. 3, doing a good day's work during the day on things that matter and benefits other people. I really enjoy doing that. 4, leaving work at 4 to go work out. That's important to me. Don't get to do it enough. Number 5, make a good, healthy dinner with my wife. And 6, spending the evening quietly reading or watching a good movie. That's my idea of a perfect business day. How about you, Brian?
Perfect business day for me is going to, assuming that we're doing the normal, the day in, day out, if I would wake up, a little bit of food, just a little something.
Okay.
Meditation.
Okay. Good.
Then that's going to be the shower and the get to work. Mm-hmm. And if I'm controlling this workday fantasy, I'd be working on long-term goals and short-term goals for whatever the projects are. In the morning, then a good lunch with someone, and then back, maybe do short-term goals and then long-term. And then, get out, 4:30, and then healthy dinner and relax.
Right. Right. It sounds like a good day.
It does. It does. Normally I think, it's that we get stuck in the short term, the immediate things that have to get
right.
And, for me, it's when I'm also finding the time to work on, or at least just to think about a little bit, the long term,
right? The
long-term business goals,
which is so hard to do.
That's when you have the focus again,
right?
And you remember why you're doing all of it.
Right. I remember years ago reading a book by Stephen Covey, and he talked about doing things that were urgent as opposed to important. And so many times the urgent is what consumes our day, and we don't get to really what's the important, which is more often the long term, the power stroke stuff, if you will. And my day's the same way. Sometimes you spend your whole day doing what's urgent.
You can easily go 2 weeks without thinking about your long-term goals when you get caught up in the crap.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I thought I was the only one that had that. You always go, whoa, does everyone else think like that? Or have that same issue?
Yeah, you feel like, when that's what happened is when you get in those ruts and all of a sudden you're like, I haven't pushed the ultimate goal. I'm no closer to it.
Right.
I just moved laterally around like a flopping fish for 2 weeks and made no progress.
Right. Let me ask you this. How often do you get the perfect day?
Not very, and I think that's on me. I got to figure out a way to do that.
Right. I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking too, my day. How often do I get the perfect day that I just get? Not often. Not often enough. Not often as it should be. We've recently experienced some mutual friends, some people that we know, and they've passed away at an early age. And it makes you think, wow, I want more perfect days, because I don't know how many I'll necessarily have. We try and do stuff to make sure we're going to be long termers, but I mean, you never know. You never know. I always kind of go back to one of the scenes in that movie Vice about Dick Cheney, and the narrator's walking down the street, and you're liking this guy, and he's kind of a nice, average kind of guy, and he's talking about this or that, and all of a sudden, bam, a car comes out of nowhere and kills him instantly, and that could happen to any of us, and it would be better to have more perfect days, more perfect days.
I am going to be so afraid to drive home now. Thanks, dude. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Welcome to LA, babe, right? Brian's originally from the Cleveland area, and I don't think they have as much traffic back there as they do out here in Hollywood. They recently just spent like $1 billion widening the 405, And after all of that, years of construction, they've now come out with the admission of, it's bad as it's always been.
Yeah. Hey, remember all that work we did and all that? Yeah, that really didn't do anything.
Didn't work out. It seems like traffic's becoming more and more of an issue out here on the coast. It's kind of too bad. It's not kind of too bad. It's really a shame. But it is what it is. We work through it. So, to our listeners out there, what would be your perfect day? And how does that dovetail or tab back, if you will, to your goals and your life mission and the things that you want to do? Do you have enough perfect days? I don't. Thinking about this has caused me to reevaluate a little bit how I get some more perfect days, and listening to some of the things that Brian has said has caused me to think about, hey, the things that I deal with are not that unique. These are kind of common themes, and I'm wondering how many of you out there have some of these common themes in your days. How many perfect days do you have?
I think it's a lot of what we choose to focus on.
Yeah.
If we keep remembering, and that I'm a true believer of putting up pictures or something around you that is symbolic of your long-term
goals.
Yeah. Something that you can just, every time you see it, and it can be something that no one even knows what it is. I have a button for a pizza place in Arizona that is one of my motivators. Not because it's for the pizza place, but that was just a spontaneous trip that happened. And I liked doing that. And it's that being there reminds me goals. What are your goals? What are your goals? I want to be able to do that. That's one of the things that's one of the reasons why I do what I do.
Right. Kind of an anchor to bring you back to your
always there.
To your core goals, your core plan. Something for all the listeners to think about. This is Dave Hagan, and you are listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. As an additional bonus, each month, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications. Let's listen in now as Dave answers some emails.
All right, Brian, you got a handful of emails there. Hit me with the one on the top. Looks interesting.
Okay, Dave, well, here we go. We have one from Mary, and she writes in, Dave, I am a 25-year-old woman in graduate school. It looks like I'm going to need to replace my car. Eesh. I want to follow your advice and not spend too much money, so I'm planning on getting a used vehicle. Do you have any thoughts on whether it's better to buy a used car from an individual versus a dealership or a used car lot? Thanks a bunch, Mary.
Wow, Mary, good question, because I think a lot of people are looking for used vehicles these days. I think that the best place to find a used vehicle is first and foremost someone that you know, a friend, a family member, someone that knows somebody, that kind of a thing, because there's a little bit of trust involved there. There's a little bit of the fact that you can rely on them to not be selling you something that's, secretly damaged or has some problems. So first I would say, look around friends and family. Secondly, probably an individual. An individual is not bad. Someone that you meet on you touch bases with on Craigslist or a classified ad or something like that. You've got to do a little bit of research there, but I like buying something from an individual. Would be my next choice. A third would be, a car dealership. They've got a reputation to uphold in the community, and sometimes you get warranties and things from them. So that would be probably my third choice. And then my last choice, would be like a used car lot. we always, there's kind of a stereotype of what that's about, and I don't know if that's a fair stereotype, but used car lots, you don't know what's going on necessarily. You don't know how they came to acquire the car. A lot of times they don't know a lot of things about the car. They're not in a position to warranty or back up the car other than selling you, warranties and or assurances of that type. So that would be probably my last choice. It kind of reminds me of, what was it? I saw a movie. It was a John Candy movie. Yeah, I listened to watch High Level Cinema. It was Who in the World is Harry Crumb? And he comes out to L.A., I think it was, and needs to buy a used car. And he goes to a used car lot, and I think the name on the marquee was Stinky Joe's Used Cars. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's hilarious because they try and talk him into a big fancy convertible, and he wants an economy car, and he finally signs up and drives the economy car off the lot, and he doesn't even get onto the street when some other car crashes into him, so he has to go back and buy the luxury car. So through the whole show, this Harry Crumb detective character is driving like some kind of an American-made red car. I think it was even a convertible. I mean, it was a flashy kind of car to look at, but he didn't want it, and he talked him into getting the right car, and then he crashed it. So funny stuff. Check out that movie, especially if you like the, the very basic comedy slapstick kind of stuff. Who in the world is Harry Crumb? All right, Brian, do we got another question?
Okay, Dave, this one is from Steve, and he writes in and says, Dave, I'm hoping to get my inheritance from my parents soon. However, they're living much longer than I thought they might. Any ideas on where I can get a loan against a future inheritance? Interesting. And that's from Steve.
Steve, oh man, there's so many issues in this question. I don't even know where to begin. First of all, it's not your inheritance. It's not your money. It may never be your money. Your parents can change their will or trust or survivorship positions on their bank accounts and completely take you off. So it's not your inheritance, and you're not entitled to it, and you may never get it. So you need to change your thinking a little bit about that. If your parents are nice enough to leave that behind for you, hey, that's a bonus. But no one is entitled to an inheritance. And my folks actually had a bumper sticker on their car that said, "We're spending our kids' inheritance." And my thought was, more power to you. We want you to enjoy that and don't think about leaving anything behind. So one, it's not your inheritance. Two, if you're waiting for it, it might mean that you're not cash flowing right now. And of course, that's one of the big no-nos that we talk about on the Financial Wellness Podcast. You should be sustainable absolutely right now. And if you're falling behind and waiting for your inheritance, kind of waiting for your folks to drop, that sounds kind of bad. You're not cash flowing, and you need to change that right away. The last thing your parents would want you to do would be to inherit money from them, and you use it to pay debt. Third, you're talking about a loan and interest on a loan. And if you borrow money at 7% and your parents live 10 years, that loan's going to double. So what you're going to get is half as much benefit potentially from what you might eventually get, or you might not get enough to pay off the loan, and then you're in trouble. So, all sorts of things to think about. I think you should change your thinking on this immediately and right away. It's not your inheritance. You probably aren't cash flowing if you're just waiting for them to pass. And to borrow money, you don't know how long they're going to live, and that loan could double. It would be a terrible thing to borrow money against an inheritance. I would not even think about that. I don't even know places where you can do that, although there's probably places that will loan you money on that kind of a thing. But don't do it. Change your thinking. Start looking at things a different way. I think you're going to be a whole lot happier. But Steve, thanks for the email, and I appreciate the opportunity to, give you some of my thoughts on some of your thoughts. All right, Brian, I think that's a wrap for today. Stay tuned, everybody, for next week. We've got some interesting things coming up. We just did an interview with somebody in North Carolina, a fellow that speaks on success and trust-based success. And I think you're going to find that real interesting and motivating and uplifting. So stay tuned. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.